Hello, I'm Sonia, one of the physios at PACE, and we're here today for our second in the series of our Talking to Parents webinars. And I'm very excited to have Rachel, one of our specialist occupational therapists who is specialised in hand skills. We're going to talk today and answer some of the questions that people have sent in ahead of the webinar. But it's just a reminder that this isn't clinical advice. It's the information that we hope you sometimes don't get a chance to listen to us or talk to us about during a session. Do speak to your own therapist for any specific clinical questions or specifics related to your own child. As with the previous webinar, use our feedback form at the end to let us know anything else that you might have thought about and let us know whether you're finding this useful or not. So I'm going to hand over to Rachel now, and she's going to start by telling us what fine motor skills are.
Thanks, Sonia. So really fine motor skills is just how we use our fingers and our hands to make small movements. It involves coordination of the brain and the muscles, the brain telling the muscles what to do. And the development of our fine motor skills is also really dependent on our larger movement and larger motor skills. Things like trunk control, shoulder stability. Those things give us a strong and a kind of stable base from which we can use our arms and our hands with more control. Skills like pincer grasp, hand strength, they're all essential for children's development and their ability to use their hands for these small movements.
So why are fine motor skills important then, Rachel?
Well, really, our fine motor skills are incredibly important because we use them in everyday activities. Things like dressing, eating, brushing your teeth. If you think how many times you've used your hands so far today, drawing, writing, playing with toys, all of those things that our children love to do and we want to see them doing more of, that's what they need their fine motor skills for, both at home and also at nursery or at school. The regular practicing of the kind of unfastening buttons, pulling at Velcro, doing up and down zips, all of those things help our children develop their fine motor skills, and dressing up clothes are a great way to get some extra practice in too. I think one thing that's important to remember though is that all of our children and their motor skills develop at different rates. And it's when they start to struggle with those fine motor skills, they can start experiencing difficulties with grasping things like tools, pencils, scissors, cutlery, moving objects from one hand to the other, using their fingertips. And that's really when children start to need a little bit of extra help with their fine motor development. And hopefully we'll look at some ideas for that today.
So it sounds like you're going to move on to this, but one of the questions that we get from a lot of parents is how they can support the development of their child's fine motor skills. What would you advise them?
So fine motor skill activities that occupational therapists use tend to be fun, playful ways to develop those skills. And all of those sorts of things you can use at home, usually using objects that you've probably already got at home anyway. We want learning to be fun, and it's easier if you can fit it into kind of your daily routine, like on car journeys or bath time or while you're busy in the kitchen, giving them an activity to do so that it fits better into your kind of daily life. We can't expect children to be able to write if they haven't been able to previously develop the strength that they need in their hands and fingers. And so I'm just going to cover a few ideas here, just 6 ways in which you can help your child to play and to learn. They're aimed at children aged kind of 2 to 5 years old, and to develop skills like bilateral hand coordination, using 2 hands together, wrist extension, grasp strength, pincer and tripod grasp, opening up the web space of the thumb, and also developing separation of what the 2 different sides of the hand can achieve together. And then you can choose some of these activities that fit best with you and your children and build on them as you go. So the first area is just playing games. There are so many everyday materials and activities that are ideal for strengthening hand muscles, practicing hand-eye coordination and developing those fine motor skills. Games like jigsaw puzzles, shape sorters, posting objects, like boards with pegs, the peg boards, building blocks, all those kind of construction type materials that are out on the market. They all lend themselves really well to strengthening the muscles of the hand. The second area, love getting some Play-Doh out or playing with different strengths of play putty. Those are great ways to develop a whole range of fine motor skills. So you can encourage your child to squeeze the Play-Doh, to stretch it, to pinch it, to twist it, to build with it, roll it out to make snakes or worms or sausages. You can roll it up into little balls and make peas. You can practice using cutlery with Play-Doh. So using a knife to cut through the Play-Doh is much easier than doing that with food. And often because it's kind of stickier, it sticks to the plate more easily. And scissor skills, just cutting through kind of strings of Play-Doh can be really helpful as well to practice those skills of the tool use. You can add other materials to it, so different textures. You can make Play-Doh creatures. You can hide objects inside the Play-Doh and get them to pull it apart to pick things out. There's lots of different recipes on the internet for different textures, but you can also add smells and colours just to make it a bit more fun too. So Play-Doh is a great one. Third one, which not all parents like doing at home, but maybe in the garden, is just get painting. Get active with some art materials. It doesn't matter what it looks like at the end, it's the process of them getting involved and exploring those different media that helps develop their hands. So helping them to learn to grasp, to hold onto and move things like brushes, sponges, just little cotton buds to make shapes or patterns on the page. You can also use objects and tools to use marks and make mark making, and that will then later on develop into being able to hold a pencil and form letters and numbers. It's also great fun just to have an activity that you just do for the sake of it. It doesn't have to be a therapy time. Just get some paints out and have some fun. Finger painting is a brilliant way for children to work on finger isolation, just using one finger to make a pattern in the paint or handprints. Children also enjoy using the kind of oversized, the big chalks on a concrete surface, maybe in the garden, or a large brush that you can just dip in some water and splash around, and it's not quite so messy. Another option is to get some water out and play with some water play, whether that's in the bath or in the garden. It can just be fun for everyone. If you're pushing the sponges under the water and then pulling them when they're heavy back up again, squeezing those sponges. If you're filling or emptying buckets, scooping and pouring with jugs and cups and pots, those are all the activities you need to build fine motor skills and strengthen the hands and the forearms. So maybe you could fill one bowl with water and have an empty one next to it, and you can use the sponge to squeeze back into to transfer the water across. You can add food colouring or bubbles to make it a bit different. And also those like little squeezy pipettes or turkey basters where you can kind of squeeze, put into the water and suck up the water and then squeeze it out into another container. Can be fun too. One thing that a lot of children love is a sensory tray. So you might want to put that on their high chair tray or at a table. They're great ways to explore, kind of again, scooping, transferring different textures like rice, pasta, lentils, sand if you're feeling really brave, things like jelly. They're all great ways of developing their fine motor skills. And if you add a spoon or some tweezers, some plastic tweezers into the tray, it gives opportunities for them to develop different types of grasp when they're transferring objects from one tray, maybe into like an ice cube tray or a bun tin. You could maybe even set up a race where you've got some tweezers and they've got some tweezers, and you can see who can be the first one to fill up their pot full of rice or pasta. And the last suggestion I've got is just getting outdoors. I know now is the time of year when we really want to get out as much as we can. Loads of opportunities in the garden and outside to be able to develop our fine motor skills. Even things like climbing, swinging, pushing and pulling, all of those work on building your upper limb and grip strength, which is really important for fine motor skills. Digging and gardening activities also require fine muscle control. So things like planting seeds and bulbs using a pincer grasp, transferring seedlings, using a tool like a little trowel or a small fork to dig with, all build grip strength, and also working on hand-eye coordination. So I hope some of those ideas have been helpful.
Thank you, Rachel. You have given us plenty of ideas there, both looking at arm strength and hand strength, which I think should be really useful. Anybody got any more specific questions, then please let us know. Otherwise, hopefully you can join us next week for our third webinar in the series, Talking to Parents About, which is going to be about communication. We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.